Hello, lovely to see you all here. How are you having a good day? Yes? Good, good. Before we start, really quick thing. If you need to leave at any point, at the end, please exit at the back. Please do not come through the front, because it was a nightmare with the previous panel. So please just exit from the back, please. Cool. Okay, yes. So my name is Dr. Jazmin Scarlett, pronounced as she, her. I am, when I'm not doing stuff like this, I'm a flood resilience officer for the Environment Agency. So if you have any flooding questions, I'm off duty, so no. I am a black woman. I have short, curly afro hair, and I'm wearing a ghost-type Pokemon t-shirt with rainbow mermaid leggings, and I feel great. Is Cody with us? He's not with us. Is he okay? While we wait for Cody to appear, Abby.
Hello, is my mic working?
Yes.
Excellent. Hi, I am Avi, my pronouns are they, them. Or for a little visual description, I am a white passing NB. I have short brown hair, a bit spiky at the front, and I'm wearing a very, very bright pink t-shirt with trustee written on it. Because when I'm not in this panel, I am running around with a mic, a radio rather, yeah, wearing denim shorts and hiking boots.
Hi guys, my name is Yasmin Benoit. My pronouns are she, her, and for a visual description, I kind of look like the boohoo version of Storm from X-Men. And if you don't watch X-Men, I'm black with like platinum hair, and I'm wearing like whatever this is, corset legging things, and then actual purple corset.
Hi, can everyone hear me? I'm Eunice Hung, and I'm, my pronouns are she, her, and I am wearing a burgundy striped dress and a burgundy cardigan and burgundy shoes. I'm on a vibe today.
Okay, Cody's not with us, so we can maybe just fill the time until he comes, yeah? Okay, a little bit about me. I describe myself as queer because dissecting it is really confusing, but if we're going to break it down, describe myself as like bi-pan, error ace. It's very confusing, and I'm still trying to grapple with how wordy that is. Been out for about 7-8 years now, so I was quite late in figuring out who I was. Bi first, then ace came afterwards, and then arrow came afterwards. And yeah, it's been a great journey, really, for me. How about you?
I similarly have a variety of labels, because who doesn't in this room? So I am I use bi or pan or queer pretty interchangeably. I am non-binary, and that's been a quite big part of coming out. So I did the bi bit first, and then I did the non-binary bit, and then I sort of mushed together the arrow and the ace bits, and there was never really sort of a concrete coming out of either of them, but I would say arrow and then ace, roughly time 90.
And for me, I actually don't have that many labels. It's just asexual and aromantic, really. And I always say that I realized I was asexual and aromantic when everyone else realized that they weren't. So, like, early puberty, I guess, and I didn't discover the words until I was about 15, and then people didn't believe me until I was about 22. So the coming out process took a decade longer than it needed to, but I had kind of made my piece of it a lot earlier than that.
For me, I use different labels depending on where I am. I use queer as the kind of catch-all, I can't be bothered to get into this today term. I've been identifying as bisexual since I was 14, so that's firmly embedded there, that's not shifting. And I use like ace, well, mostly I use grey, ace, and demisexual for the people that would understand those terms or be willing to listen to me explain those terms in probably more detail than they wanted. And I use kind of on the ace spectrum for like everybody else, basically.
Yeah. Okay, he's still here. Cody. He was really excited to be here. I'm sure he's
Did you
raring
send
to
him
go.
the link?
I don't know. We've had tech issues.
Hey!
There he is. Amazing. Hello, Cody.
Hello, how are you?
Whoa, you're very loud. Can we turn it down a bit, please? Hello, we are just introducing ourselves and filling the time while we wait for you. So now that you're here, could you introduce yourself, please, and give yourself a visual description of what you look like as well, please?
Sure, my name is Cody Daigle-Orians. My pronouns are they, them. I am a non-binary person who is male presenting. I have silver hair, I have a little bit of a mustache, and I'm wearing a blue button-down shirt.
Amazing. And since we fill the time with it, would you like to describe your ace identity, or what kind of identity do you have?
Sure, well, I identify generally as queer, also asexual, and agender. But that is a relatively new set of things for me. I first came out when I was 18, and I came out as gay. That was my original, gay and cis was my original set of identities.
That's interesting, and I like the fact that we've all gone on this journey to discover different parts of ourselves. I love that. It's beautiful. That's what I love about just being in the queer community in general. It's like we can just take our time to figure things out. Okay, so we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it now. So I'm going to start with Cody, since you joined us late. It's not your fault, so I'm sure it's not. Could you describe kind of like your journey of how you got to where you are today in terms of your identity and your sexuality, and maybe your gender you can talk a little bit about as well?
Sure. So as I said earlier, I originally came out as gay when I was 18, but asexuality is something that found me a lot later in life. I came out as ace when I was 41, thanks to Tumblr. My husband encouraged me to get on Tumblr and hang around, and in sort of spending some time reading posts there about how people were living asexuality in their lives, I recognized a lot of things that I had experienced throughout my life. I'd always kind of assumed I was gay, but kind of a broken gay, like not good at it. And that was kind of how I understood my life. But finding asexuality made a lot of that make sense, and it was a really useful lens to see myself. And so at 41, I came out as ace. And over the last couple years, that has become a much more public thing for me. I now sort of exist on the internet in a much more public way as an ace person. And in that interaction with more ace folks online, it led me down, led me down a gender journey, and allowed me sort of to question some of the things that I had internalized as a young person about gender. And that sort of led me in the last year to start identifying as non-binary and understanding my gender in that way.
Yeah, that resonates, the whole fact that you feel broken. I've had that as well. Eunice, I'm going to go to you.
Okay. So as I mentioned, I came out, well, not so much came out as bisexual, as just started living as bisexual. Didn't you already know that? I thought that was obvious when I was 14. And sex isn't always that exciting. Give me a really nice bath and a book and like, yeah, that's. I'm probably gonna. If you throw in the ice cream, I'm definitely making that choice. So I thought, like, I'm not sex repulsed. I can't be asexual. And it was only in the last few years that I really started going, you know what? Actually, there's space in that spectrum for me.
Yeah, I like that. That's really lovely. Yasmin, how about yourself?
Well, as I sort of mentioned before, it was kind of like a long process, not so much for me understanding not so much for me understanding myself, but more for other people kind of accepting what I was trying to tell them. Because, as I said, you know, everybody starts off feeling pretty much asexual. I feel like there was a kind of universal experience until everyone else's sexuality started to be directed towards other people, and that was when I was kind of like, oh, okay, I guess that's what we're doing, and I assume that's what's gonna happen to me at some point. And then it just didn't happen, and I made no attempt to encourage it to happen. In fact, I thought it seemed like a lot of effort. Like, I remember, like, in like late primary school, transitioning to secondary school, where boys and girls, they didn't want to play together anymore. They wanted to like date each other and go out with each other, and they fancied each other. And I was like, we're 11, what does that even mean? Where are you going? like, where exactly are we going on these dates? But so that's why I sort of decided, because I had an ingenious idea that if I went to an all-girls school and there were no boys, then people would forget about sex and they'd forget about relationships and everything would be fine. Which obviously did not work. If anything, it had the opposite effect. And consequently, people then noticed what I wasn't doing even more. So I probably just shot myself in the foot there, because then everyone, it was kind of like a hobby of people to kind of quiz me and try and work out what was wrong with me. And also this was during like peak Tumblr as an era, I'd say. So kind of having a niche orientation was kind of cool. Just not for me, apparently, because eventually through all the quizzing, it was suggested that I might be asexual. I Googled it, sounded about right. So when people asked me, I could say, hey, I'm asexual, that's the answer. And then they said, no, you're not. So I was like, oh, so I don't know where we go from here. And so I kind of just went back into the closet, because I was like, you wanted the answer, you don't accept the answer, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. And I didn't really feel like, I don't know, looking at the way asexuality was online, it was very kind of Tumblr white kid-esque. I didn't really see myself represented in the community. I wasn't recognized as being asexual. I wasn't able to use the term, so it was kind of useless for me, aside from knowing what the term was for myself and then never actually using it. So I just kind of never used it until I was in my 20s, and it was printed in Metro newspaper in an interview I did, and then everyone believed me. So that sped up the process.
Trust it to the media to, oh God. Anyway, Avi, what about you?
So yes, it's kind of hard to like pin down specific points in a timeline for me. But I guess so. I guess what's important for context is that I grew up in a fairly conservative religious environment. So like sex was a thing that happened in marriage only anyway, and that was sort of how things were. Obviously, that's not what was really happening, but that's what's supposed to be happening. And so I, like, not only was there sort of no concept of asexuality or aromanticism, like never even heard of them, I hadn't even really heard of being bi. So it took like a long time to even work that stuff through, and sort of worked it out a little bit as a teenager, but then back into the closet because of various bad relationships, and then sort of coming into uni and realizing I was bi, and then a bit after that realizing I was non-binary around the time I stopped being religious. And there was a feeling of needing to catch up because of that sort of upbringing, that conservative upbringing. So I sort of went all the way the other way. I sort of refer to it as my slut era.
Fair. No slut shaming here.
Yeah, no slut shaming. It's a positive label. But yeah, sort of never really enjoying any of it, just doing it because I felt like it was expected of me, like I hadn't had that teenage life, so therefore I had to do it now instead. And then like coming to realize that I was having difficulties with like romantically connecting to people and thinking, actually, there's there's more to it than just, you know, something broken in me, but that's definitely what I thought it was at first. And sort of, I remember the first time coming into a relationship, telling someone that I was aromantic and sort of getting a, why didn't you tell me this before? And being like, you're literally the first person I have ever told about this, so why do you think I was going to tell you immediately? And finding that quite challenging. And that relationship ended because of being aromantic. And the next one ended mostly because of being aromantic too. And like the phrase sort of, I want to be with someone who feels the same way back to me, coming to me, which I'm not going to diss them for it. You know, that's what happened. But like also starting to realize that actually I'm not enjoying the sex that I'm having, and I'm relating to your thing. I would much rather sit on the sofa and watch Netflix. Like, apparently that's not what everyone feels like. And like, I'm not sex repulsed. I occasionally do enjoy sex, not very much, and I'd much rather do other things, really. But yeah, it's been sort of difficult to kind of work that stuff out because A, there's so little information out there, and B, there's so little understanding. And I feel like my sort of pride, quote unquote, for being ace and for being aro is so far behind the pride that I have for being bi and for being non-binary. And it's only really in the last sort of couple of years that like joining some ace groups on Facebook and like finding some kind of community that's really helped. And like also getting into a relationship with someone who also turned out to work out that they were ace too kind of helped. Yeah, it's been a long road.
It has been a long road, and there's still more to go. So kind of touching on from what everyone has been saying in terms of figuring things out, how does that intersect with other aspects of your identities? So we could talk about gender. So in some cases, gender came first before the aceness came first. Sometimes it comes afterwards. But then also aspects for obviously three of us on this panel, it's more obvious that our skin color might play an impact in terms of our aceness and our identities. So I just want to touch on that briefly in terms of what have you found in terms of, has it reinforced the other aspects of your identity, or is it challenged it, or is it more coming from the outside? Is it people be like, oh, but you're this, so why are you this, sort of thing? So I'm going to come to you first, Avi. What do you think in terms of, already? Damn, okay, 5 minutes, guys.
I'll be quick.
Yeah, quick, let's go.
Right, how to answer that question quickly. I think probably the biggest intersection for me is around sort of the conservative religious upbringing that I've had. This is actually literally the first time that I've ever said anything publicly about being ace, and it's quite terrifying.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. And I'm sort of thinking...
Yeah, well done, right. Well done.
Yeah, like sort of thinking, what the fuck? Sorry. Too early to swear in the day. I should know that. I wrote some of the rules. But yeah, like definitely worried about like, what if some of my more conservative religious family is gonna then somehow watch this panel and hear things, and like that's definitely a really big part of it. So like being able to sort of connect that religious community that I'm still 1 foot in with this kind of queerness that feels like it's sort of less PC to talk about than perhaps sexuality or gender in general is quite scary. And yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, I was going to say like half an hour is not enough for this panel. Cody, what about you? So anything that really sticks to your mind in terms of the challenges and whatnot?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, certainly even before I knew I was ace, the challenge of being an ace person and navigating gay male space is really difficult. Gay male identity is so focused on sex as a way of expressing that kind of queerness. And so if you are kind of moving through that space and sex is not important to you, or you're not wanting sex in the same kind of way, your queerness and your validity in the group is questioned. So that was certainly, and continues to be hard for me too, is navigating the kind of people that I would want to be in a relationship with would be queer men. And that is just a space where my identity as an ace person is called into question and is challenged a lot. And so that's kind of the main space for me.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yeah, just from friends I have who are gay and just navigating the masculinity aspect of it and not wanting it. It's tough. It can be tough. Yasmin.
Yeah, I guess for me it's more of a race thing. As I said, that was the reason why I wasn't able to come out for so long. It wasn't because people didn't believe asexuality was real. That was pretty, fine around the people I hung out with as teenagers. It was just I didn't believe it was real for me as a Black person. And that was kind of also why I didn't really feel that included within the community, and I've experienced a lot of racism within the ace community, and to this day, navigating it is still ironically uncomfortable given what my job is. Like, I think people probably wouldn't assume that I would still have this as an ongoing issue, but I do, so I feel like that has been pretty pivotal, because, you're gonna be a minority in a minority regardless, and people see Blackness before they see asexuality or anything else. So
Yeah.
Oh, 2 minutes.
Oh no.
Okay. Try to be quick. I would say that the two main things that I've bumped up against is being bisexual and being polyamorous, because in both of those communities, and especially being involved in like community organizer circles and activist circles, there is still this, like it or not, this kind of connection that people form through who they're dating. And especially in the polyamorous communities, it's who are you dating that's dating who, or whatever, and you form this network, and it's great and it's lovely, until you realize that those relationships come with the assumption that you will be having sex and romance in those. And that if you don't really want, like, demisexual person, I'm gonna take time to want to have sex with someone. Some people don't want to wait that long. And, not really, like, hey, if you want to have sex, could we not, like, maybe not think about my orgasm so much? Because that's kind of getting a bit... And then you get into those conversations, and then you have fewer relationships, because there's fewer people who are willing to, quote unquote, like, deal with that. And so then you end up with fewer connections, and you end up with less impact as an organizer in those communities. And that just, I'm very lucky now that I've built up a group of people who, like, that's not an issue, but that was something that is still probably prevalent in some spaces.
I'm sorry, that sucks. Okay, Q&A time. Apologies. I thought I could get this all done really quickly. Never mind. Q&A time. Questions. Well, we have one there. Let's go back to the first, and we'll go you, and then we'll go you, and then we'll go you. Cool. Apologies, everyone. I didn't get through everything we wanted to, but it happens. It happens.
Thanks for an interesting panel. I was going to say, in terms of intersections, I feel like in the bi plus community, fluidity is like a big aspect of that, and like maybe fluctuating feelings about different things. And I wanted to hear what you guys have to say about the way that might work in like arrow or aceness is the fluidity as well.
Does anyone really comment on that? Cody, do you think you can comment on that? Anybody?
Yeah, so I'll take a stab at that. For me, I'm asexual, but I am sex favorable, so that sex can be a part of the relationships that I have. But there's an immense amount of fluidity in what that means in relationship to relationship and how I personally relate to that. There isn't like a consistent way in which I am sex favorable in relationships. And so that changes a lot for me. And it's something that inside relationships, there has to be a lot of conversation and really open communication and negotiation all the time, because there isn't like a monolithic ace experience that I am having, so I can like give you a checklist and then you can follow it. It changes and is evolving as the relationship evolves and as I evolve.
Yes. Does that answer your question?
I'm also going to be reading out some questions that have been submitted online, so we're just going to alternate between audience online. Someone in the audience asked, first of all, thank you for everything that you have done to raise awareness for AIDS communities. Thinking about the bisexual and ever-AIDS intersection, could you talk a little bit more about action/attraction/split attraction?
Oh, so then we're just going to repeat that. So kind of in the way I can figure out. So they're asking in terms of essentially the split attraction model, essentially? Yeah, okay. Does anyone want to take that? Does anyone want to dive into the split attraction model? Yeah? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So the split attraction model, in case people don't know what it is to begin with, is the idea that your different kinds of attraction doesn't necessarily have to align with one another. So you might be sexually attracted in one way, romantically attracted in another, aesthetically attracted in all of these different ways of experiencing attraction. For me, it was a really, really huge part of working out my bi-ness to begin with, because when I was younger, I experienced some level of sexual attraction to multiple genders, but I hadn't at that point experienced romantic attraction. And so that kind of made it really, really interesting and sort of cleared things up. And I was like, aha, I have something to come out about. But then as I began to kind of connect a bit more with the aromantic side and the ace side, it's kind of been really, really important to sort of look at those things independently of one another, and that my aromanticness isn't necessarily affecting my aceness and vice versa. And yeah, like, I suppose also like touching on that fluidity point before, like experiencing attraction to the same person that fluctuates over the course of a week is quite a wild ride. But is it has been really important to kind of think about that split attraction model to understand how I experience attraction in that way.
Yeah, you had a question. There's this guy. Oh.
Hello. I'd like to talk about like the idea of having like a bit of a chaotic sex binge, like because I also really relate to that experience. Like it wasn't something that I really figured out about myself until that. And one of the unique difficulties I personally found, and I'd be really interested in whether you share this experience in any way, is it makes coming out a bit harder. Because you go like, yeah, I actually don't experience a huge amount of sexual attraction. They go, wait, you've been around a lot. Like, and yeah, I was just really curious as to whether that was anything that any of you could identify with.
Well done. 5 minutes. Does anyone want to take that question? I can't answer that question.
I can share that. So like that actually happened in my marriage. I came out as ace during the course of being married to my husband, and the beginning part of our relationship was a very sexual space, mostly because we were just like really into each other, and you know I had a really strong, let's make this person who I totally dig very happy. But then coming out as ace, that changed a lot, and so there was a perception of like, really, is this a thing, or are you saying this just to sort of like, are you just not attracted to me anymore? Are you not interested in me anymore? Is this just some way to get out of being in this relationship? And also like throughout my 20s, yeah, I mean, I was in the gay community in my 20s, so like, yeah, that was, being ace has been a big surprise to a lot of people who've known me since I was a lot younger. But yeah, so I'm concurring with your experience for sure.
Would add a little something.
Sure.
That one of the things that I experienced was when I got into a new relationship, and it was super exciting, and I had NRE and that new relationship energy, and this was a relationship that I entered whilst already knowing I was asexual, and because I had this really sort of great connection, and we really wanted to be like physically connected a lot, that ended up with other people asking me, are you sure you're still ace? Yes, I'm still ace, and that shows itself in the way that I have sex with that person, But I'm not talking about that with you, I'm talking about that with them. So you're just not seeing that side, but yes, I am still ace, and that hasn't changed.
Okay, this guy here has been desperate to answer a question.
Firstly, thank you for this panel. I'm so glad that it is a thing because we need more ace neighbour representation. Just wanted to touch on a point that you mentioned quite early on about when you said, this is my label. If you want to get into the specifics, I'm XYZ, because that's relatable as well. And also the fact that it's a constant journey. We're still kind of trying to understand ourselves even better into the nitty-gritty, if you wanted to go that far. When I learn about like the aromantic and asexual spectrums, it makes me wonder whether there's spectrums for all sorts of different kinds of attractions, like, I don't know, thrown out there, platonic attraction, emotional attraction, spiritual attraction, just kind of learning a bit deeper in that side of things. And also, for the sake of trying to get more representation for like ace and aro culture and how we live and what we experience, like how we can try and get more representation effectively, because it seems like it's quite a new, maybe a new term, not a new experience, if that makes sense. Like, how do we get that out there so that more people are aware, more people understand, instead of having to say, okay, I don't know, I'm demi-romantic, this is what it actually means, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just going to quickly chip in. It's like, these people on the panel, they are in their own way doing that work. Not me, because I don't actually like to be in the limelight. But these people doing the advocacy, turn up to like interviews, even if they're really awkward, because I remember watching one that you did recently, Yasmin, and it's like, oh my God, this guy does not know what he's talking about. So like, we just got to put ourselves out there, even if it is uncomfortable. But you could just start small. You don't have to go as big as some of these people, these panelists have. Just start small, just take it easy, just one step at a time. Do we have any more online ones?
Yeah, let's go to one more question.
Okay.
Do you have any advice on where to find like-minded people when you are very new to accepting your own asexuality?
That was actually one of my like extra questions if I had time. How do you find your community? How do you find that support? Does anyone on the panel have any ideas? I have one. But let the panel speak first. Does anyone have any?
Probably just online places.
Yeah.
Tumblr, Facebook groups, Avon forums. Twitter has some, but it's a bit of a risk.
Yeah.
There's Instagram pages. Discord has quite a lot of people, so I'd recommend just digging around in those areas. Reddit as well.
Yeah. Cody, do you agree with that? Yes? Have anything extra?
Yeah. And I think actually, where possible, go visit your local queer center, your local LGBTQ community center, and see if there are ace and aro people involved or around in person, because there's something really powerful about getting to share community in person too. So yeah, and if not, see if they'll help you start that, to find people where you are. Because we don't have ace bars to go to where we can find other ace folks like us. So getting the opportunity to be in person together is a really great thing.
Yeah, and I just want to say, if anyone in the audience is either questioning or is ace or aro, I co-founded, I'm just plugging myself, sorry. I co-founded a Discord server with my friend Sarah Cosgrove, who was supposed to moderate this today. We co-founded the Ace in STEM Discord server, so if you're in science, technology, and engineering or maths, and anything come under that umbrella, come and find me afterwards. I can send you a Discord link, and then we can set you up. We're done, yeah. Okay, cool. But if you have any other questions, I think we're hanging. Well, I mean, you have to hang around then.
I ain't going anywhere.
Okay, so yeah, we'll be mingling about and everywhere. I'm not going to go for another hour or so because obviously train strikes, so I have to catch a train. But I'm sure, like Cody, of course, is on very active on Twitter. These guys, well, depending on your situation, Yasmin, you're sometimes on Twitter. But yeah, there'll be the place you can come and contact us. Yeah.
I'm about to run to like an author meet and greet, so if anyone wants to chat to me, come find me there. I'll be there for the next hour.
Yes. Cool. Right, thank you, everybody.